My name is Kerrie, and my goal is to inspire healing and meaning in all areas of life. In this podcast, we will dive deep into conversations. From heartbreak to freedom, we will explore different self-care modalities, learn to be the best expressions of ourselves, and to live with purpose. I'm here to offer my personal insights and to share my story in hopes that it will guide you on your path. This is Heal with Care, a journey of self-discovery. There have been so many times in my life when I thought things would stay the same forever. I was so sure of it, especially when I was a child. And when you think about it, wouldn't it be so awesome to always stay within your comfort zone? For me, I once envisioned never having to grow up. And with Peter Pan as my idol, I believe I didn't have to grow up. I'd always be playing and having fun. At one stage in my life, I remember loving my clothing. I always got gifted matching sets, where the tops and the bottoms went perfectly together. It was comfy, cozy, and it was simple. There was no overthinking it. I would just pick a color and the two pieces matched. I remember thinking to myself, as long as I live, I'll always wear these matching sets. So let's face it, if I kept wearing those matching sets similar to the ones I had as a child, no one would take me seriously. But fast forward to my teenage years, all that changed. Matching sets were not really a thing anymore. Now I had to figure out what went with what. Separate tops, separate bottoms, mixing and matching. Picking out my clothes had become a chore. So what's the point of me sharing all this? For much of my life, I thought things would never change, that everything would always stay the same. When you're in the moment, you don't really think about growth and evolution. You just think you are just the way you are. But as time goes on, we start to move through the different stages of life. And with that, change becomes inevitable, whether we want it or not. No matter how much I have wished for things to stay the same, life keeps moving. Sometimes it's the universe pulling me in a specific direction, and I feel this yearning for something different. Sometimes it's just the people around us that change, or it could be the environment. Sometimes we have a say in these changes that are happening, and sometimes we don't have any input at all. At times, we just have to accept that things have shifted, and when they do, we're left with no choice but to go with it. One summer holiday, my sister and I would stay up till 3 a.m. in the morning, watching television, doing arts and crafts, and coming up with fun, creative ways to keep ourselves entertained. Every night, we thought of something new, and we had the best time ever. By the end of the summer, we promised each other that we would do it all again the following year. But when the next summer came around, I was so excited to do it all over again. But what I noticed is that the things we once found exciting weren't quite as exciting as they once were. Maybe we just couldn't recreate that moment. Maybe our interests had completely changed. A lot had happened within a year's span, and it was clear we needed to try something different. I remember my young teenage years when my sister and I used to love the same television shows. I'd get so excited when a new episode would come on, so I would make sure to tell my sister so that we could watch it together. But over time, I noticed that her interest in the shows faded. I was still super excited to looked forward to them, but she didn't. I bugged her for a couple of weeks, hoping that she'd come around, but again, she didn't. Eventually, I stopped trying, and I ended up enjoying these shows all on my own. She was changing, and there was nothing I could do about it. When we got to high school, I started to notice the difference between my choice of friends and my sister's. Going out into the world, we had different personalities and values. We were drawn to different people. If I had to describe my group of friends, they didn't care much about fashion. They were focused on their studies and were friendly and accepting of almost everyone, regardless of who you were. They were mostly introverted and kept to themselves and only opened up when they felt safe. My sister and her friends were the opposite. They were extroverted. They enjoyed going to parties and gatherings. The girls wore makeup, they followed the latest fashion trends, and they cared about being seen as cool or popular. We were drawn to completely different crowds. It got to the point where my sisters couldn't understand why I chose the friends that I had, and I couldn't understand what drew them to theirs. What I find interesting is that we came from the same household, but our perspectives and outlook on life were completely different. I never really understood why being popular was such a big deal. It always felt like it was too much work to keep up with. To me, it felt like I would be living a lie, constantly having to pretend to be someone I wasn't. And honestly, I'm not that great at acting. I've always preferred peace and quiet, and the fewer people around, the better. I had my reasons for choosing who I spent my time with. They were the ones I could have real conversations with, the ones I didn't have to pretend to be anyone else except for myself. I accepted them and they accepted me for who I was, and never made me feel judged. I was never part of a big group nor popular crowd, but an intimate and close-knit circle of friends who genuinely cared about each other and just wanted to enjoy life. When my sisters and I entered the dating scene, it was interesting to see how we began to change. We no longer needed to hang out with our parents or with each other. We were coupled with someone who kept us preoccupied. We were starting to venture out into the world and on our own, getting to know someone on a whole other level. With every new relationship, I was introduced to a new circle of friends and an entirely different family. Back then, I had very different mindsets. If I disagreed with my boyfriend, I often believed my way was the right way, especially if my sisters agreed with me, or because it was all I ever knew. But over time, I began to realize how many different perspectives there are in the world. We all see life through the eyes of our own lens, and it really depends on how we were raised. And sometimes we don't even realize that we don't know what we don't know. I noticed over the years how many different boyfriends would shed light on some of their pet peeves. Things like being mindful of not wetting the bathroom floor after a shower, or being in the kitchen when they are cooking. These might seem like little things, but I began to realize that when two people come together, there's a whole process of learning about each other and finding some common ground. I remember watching this documentary on poop. That's right, I said it, poop. And the studies were showing that if you take a poop and flush the toilet, the splash of the water particles mixed with your poop goes all over the bathroom. It could even reach your toothbrush. So, a new habit I created, and it was agreed upon by both parties, is that we would all close the lid of the toilet before flushing, and the lid would stay shut until someone needs to use the bathroom again. That was the common ground. I always hear about this debate whether or not the toilet seat should be up or down. And after that knowledge, I suggest to both parties to just close the lid. In a lot of my relationships, I see people trying to change their partners to fit their own expectations of what they deem to be the right way. And that rarely goes over well. There has to be a willingness of acceptance, to accept the person who they fully are with all their quirks, or at least a willingness to meet them halfway. You have to be open to making adjustments and to be able to see things from the other person's perspective. Throughout this lifetime, I feel like I've lived so many lives already, and when I look back, I cannot believe the amount of lived experiences I've had. There was a life I lived with my family, my first family, my parents, and my sisters. That was my foundation. It's where everything began for me and where I was shaped into the person I am today. It's where most of my early lessons were learned, where I held on to what made sense and carried that wisdom forward. My parents did the best that they could, and I'm grateful for that. But it was also where I often felt silenced and misunderstood. Through those experiences, later in life, I began doing my own inner healing. From personal wounds to some of the generational cycles, especially around life and money. I remember a time when I adored my parents so much that I couldn't imagine my life without them. I even remember telling my mom I'd always live with her. But as I became a young adult, everything changed. I couldn't wait to leave the family home. I felt ready to take on the world and live by my own rules, cook my own food, and live a healthier lifestyle. There was a time in my life when I noticed I rarely saw my parents or sisters. So many things were demanding my attention. To some extent, I wish I could spend more time with them, but everyone is always so busy branching out. Some were starting their own families and managing their own responsibilities and their careers. So nowadays, it's been hard to get all of us together. I found that my relationships often came and went quickly. The longer term relationships brought more than just a partner. They came with an entirely new family. I got to know some of their loved ones, shared time with them, and created memories. Some were wonderful, others I'd rather forget. But when those relationships ended, it often felt like I was breaking up, not just with the person, but with their whole family. Sometimes that brought relief, other times it just felt like a loss. It was like closing an entire chapter of my life and having to start fresh all over again. Just this week, I found myself thinking about how I never expected to be living the life that I'm living now. And honestly, I can't imagine my life without the person I'm with today. But when I look back at past relationships, they feel like a lifetime ago. It's hard to believe how much has changed, how much I've changed. What once felt so special is now a distant memory. But through every relationship, I've learned something. I've learned the art of compromise. I've discovered the qualities I truly value in a partner. Each experience opened my eyes a little more, helping me understand myself and what's important for me. With my partner now, I completely love and accept him for exactly how he is. My relationship with him has been the easiest transition I have ever had. If anything, I think he had to make more adjustments than me. Looking at where I am on my life's journey, I can hardly believe where I'm at. It reminds me just how important it is to live life in the moment. Life moves fast. There's always so much to do, so much going on. But this week, I've been intentionally pausing, allowing myself to slow down and truly be in the present moment. When I think back to 10 years ago, all I wanted was to get there, to arrive at some future version of myself. But now I can see how much has changed. My nephews and nieces have grown up so quickly. I've made so many new friends, and I've traveled to different parts of the world. All of it reminds me of how important it is to slow down and to truly be in the moment. Lately, I've been making an effort to enjoy what I have right now, not fixating on the future, but being fully present. These past few weeks have flown by. What once felt like far away has already come and gone. And in all of that, I can see the journey, but I didn't take the time to bask in the process of it all. So just like that, life can flash before your eyes. I don't want to keep rushing towards what's next. I want to savor with what's here, to enjoy it all. Change is inevitable, whether we're ready for it or not. As we move through life's different stages, we grow and evolve, or the people and environments around us do. Along the way, we face countless experiences and choices. Every decision we make shapes who we are becoming and shows up in how we live. Life doesn't pause. It keeps moving us forward. That's why it's so important to slow down, take a deep breath, and just be present. Embrace where you are right now. Trust that you're growing and evolving, even if you can't see it. One day, you'll look back and wonder how quickly time has passed. So cherish your family, spend time with those who lift your spirits, savor your experiences, and fully embrace each moment. Because this life is happening now, so it's worth enjoying every moment of it. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you found this episode insightful. If you feel called to, please share this podcast, subscribe to it, and leave a rating and review. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at healwithcare@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at healwithcare. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.